guys, welcome back to Critical Flick. Today we're going to talk about Avengers Infinity War. Alright guys, so as you know, everybody knows, this movie is the culmination of all the Marvel movies leading up to it. I think it's really what people have expected being like the climax of this whole MCU. And yeah, we got to talk about it.
Every character we've learned about so far in the MCU, it is all thrown into this movie. And it's actually fantastic in that part.
Yeah, I really did. I was honestly a little worried about some of these characters interacting with each other, especially kind of like Guardians and some of these other characters that are kind of different movies. They kind of feel different than some of the other Marvel movies, but then them all being together actually worked really well, and I thought that was one of my favorite parts of the movies where the other characters interacted with each other.
Yeah, love that part. Guardians, me and Thor. I thought the effects are actually pretty good in this movie, unlike in Black Panther where I thought it lacked a little bit in the special effects area. I think it all came together really quite nicely in this film, and I like all the different visuals and the different lands that they're at. I think it looked really cool.
Yeah, that's one thing I thought when I was watching this movie. There is a lot of different locations in the movie, and it had a really sci-fi feel for a lot of the film, which I love sci-fi, and I thought that it captured it pretty well, because it's one of the things that I really liked about Guardians and Thor Ragnarok is that kind of sci-fi aspect to it, and this kind of capitalized on that.
And I like that also that even though they were all brought together, you could tell like there was like little parts from their films, like the Guardians when they're introduced, you can just see it, and
yeah, it blended. Like I said, it blended all of it together. When I was kind of worried that the stark differences in tone of some of the films, it actually ended up working out really well.
And then we got to learn Thanos, so he was actually a pretty good bad guy.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty good. I think that he is close to being my favorite villain in the Marvel MCU. I mean, I don't love a lot of the villains from Marvel, but he was pretty good, and better than I kind of thought he was going to be. I thought he was just going to be this big, ominous presence, but he had a little more character than that.
He still hasn't got me. I don't know. It's just, that's one thing I feel like Marvel always lacks is kind of in the villain department, so it's not, I don't know.
So one of the things I kind of liked about it, speaking about the mixing of like tones between the films, I didn't think that the humor was overbearing. This movie felt like it was trying to be a little bit more serious than some of the other Marvel movies, and I liked that. When I saw the trailers, I was like, I really hope they actually kind of stick with this more somber, serious tone. And for the most part of the movie, they did. They did have their funny Marvel moments, which I did think were really funny, but it didn't feel, like it offset any of the seriousness of the story.
Yes, it definitely had like somber, serious moments, and you're like, okay, all right, they're going there. Especially in the film, there's some really, kind of like, heartfelt, gut-wrenching moments that I haven't really, there was one in particular that I hadn't really felt in any other Marvel movie, and, I thought that stuff worked well. Yeah, I thought it did, and again, I thought the humor was placed pretty nicely throughout the film. It wasn't like Guardians 2, where I thought it was just like a little overbearing.
Constant joking.
Yeah, and so I really liked that. So I'd give this movie a 7 out of 10. It was kind of disappointing for me, and I can't really go into it much because it goes into spoilers, which we'll talk about in a few moments, but otherwise, I thought it was really great seeing all the superheroes together. I liked them all fighting alongside one another. And there's some really cool action scenes that really stuck out in the film.
Yeah, I have to agree. I gave this movie a 7.5 out of 10. It didn't really live up to what I wanted it to live up to be. And I do think that I was a little misled by people talking about this movie before it came out. I don't feel like it lived up to what it was meant to be, and I can't talk about that obviously without going into a lot of spoilers, which we'll, like she said, we'll do in a minute, because really my only negatives about this movie have to do with things that are really, really, really spoilery to talk about. So yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. So if you don't want to hear any spoilers, make sure to click off now, because seriously, I'm just going to talk about pretty much specifically the end of this movie, and I think if you know it before going in, it'll really change your perception of how you feel about the movie.
Yeah, so Groot says check off now if you don't want to listen. So, alright, let's dive into some spoilers of this movie. First off, there's not a real ending.
Yeah, that's the number one reason. This movie felt like when I went and I saw Fellowship of the Ring, and I was a little kid, and I did not know that it was a multiple-part film, and it just ended. And that's how this movie ends. Whatever anybody says about it being a standalone film is not true. I don't care what anybody says. This movie should have been called, Infinity War Part 1.
Yes.
Because it has an ending that I also felt was disingenuous, because I'll talk about it in a minute, but there's some things that happen at the end that clearly are not definitive and they're not real, and I didn't like that.
Yeah, I hate cliffhanger movies. That's obviously
the thing about it, I just sorry to cut you off, but like, I don't mind cliffhangers if I know it's going to be a cliffhanger. Like, it's a part 1. Like, Deathly Hallows part 1. Not a great movie, but I knew that's how it was going to end.
Like, Pirates, knew that was a 2 to 3 series. Didn't love it at all, but I knew there was going to be a second and a third one that were going to be together.
They straight up lied. They said this movie was definitive, and this was like its own ending, standalone. It's not. Because, okay... Let's talk about the ending of the movie just real quick.
So basically at the end, half your superheroes that you've grown to love turn to ash.
Just disappear.
Just disappear.
Because the whole plot of this movie, because I didn't want to get too much into the plot, talking about the initial review of the film, is just Thanos trying to eliminate half of life in the universe because he thinks that it'll create a flourishing world where, nobody has to go without, there'll be excess, the resources will be so much more for half the people. And at the end, he accomplishes his goal of getting all the Infinity Stones, and like they say, in the snap of his fingers, it just half the people will disappear.
Which I don't love.
Okay. So I think it would have been okay if you got rid of some people that were believable. Like people that I actually thoroughly believed were going to be gone, and that's just how it was. But they got rid of, you have Spider-Man disappear, you have Black Panther disappear, and come on. You're not going to not have them come back. Because, look at the success of their films.
And even Doctor Strange even hints this was, like, the one thing that whatever. Because he talks about that in the film. So I'm like, well, obviously he gave a stone away for a reason.
Yeah, because earlier in the film, he says, he does the thing where he runs through all the scenarios that could possibly happen in fighting Thanos. And he said there's only one scenario where they beat Thanos. And so clearly he knew what that scenario was. And that's why he basically gives away the time stone to Thanos. And, when you're watching the film, it doesn't make any sense really why he does it. It's kind of like, oh, well, this is the only way we can do it.
I kind of figured.
But I just, like I said, it's not, this movie doesn't work without seeing the other half of this movie. And I'm not going to lie, I'm really excited to see the other half. But if I would have known that, I wouldn't have been as excited and as like, yes, this is the end. This is, what we've been building to. Because it wasn't.
Yeah, and it's just like, I don't know. There's just some instances, like there's one scene in particular that kind of like bugged me because I knew they were going to get the gauntlet off of Thanos, is when Iron Man, Spider-Man, and Star-Lord all come together and they're trying to take down Thanos, and they almost got his gauntlet half off, and then he figures out, spoiler, Gamora is dead, and I did not like that scene.
Well, I don't even mind that.
I hate that scene.
The thing about this movie is I actually really, really, really loved it up until the very end. And I think if I would have known how it was going to end, it was marketed in a way that it is a part 1 of a part 2, I would have enjoyed it more. But the fact that you have this great, emotional moment, especially the one moment I was talking about previously in the film was when, Peter Parker, Spider-Man, is disappearing and he's going to Tony. He's like, please don't let me die. I don't want to go. And it's like this little kid, this very vulnerable character that you grew to like really care about. And he disappears. But it just, I felt that was so disingenuous because I know he's not gone. We have another Spider-Man movie coming.
Yeah, we knew that for sure.
We obviously going to have another Black Panther, so he's not gone. And if you would have taken out some characters that I would have believed are gone, this is, oh my gosh, they're getting rid of these guys, but I don't believe it.
But I brought this up at the end. If you notice, all the original Avengers are still around, so.
Well, yeah, I didn't love that. But the thing about it is I really love the action. I enjoyed the acting. I like the tone. I love the visuals, which I'm not a big... With Marvel movies, the visuals usually don't get me. A lot of them kind of feel really cheesy and not great. Like, I thought Guardians 2 visuals weren't great. I thought that, like she said, Black Panther's visuals weren't great. But I thought they worked really well in this movie, and I thought the action was really good. The comedy worked well when it was used. The tone... the ending. It's just something about that ending really bothers me.
I just hate cliffhangers, so that's why I brought it down a notch. And honestly, like, I know Thanos, we said that he's probably one of the better villains, and I'm not feeling him. I don't feel him. And
I did feel like the deaths, when they did happen, were pretty, like, I'm going to say the real ones. We can talk about who dies.
Like Gamora.
So, when Gamora dies, that felt pretty impactful.
Yeah.
When Loki died in the very beginning of the film, that felt really impactful, too. And I was like, man, this set the tone. This is, we're not playing games. And then the end kind of, like, felt like we're playing games. Like, this isn't really... It kind of underscored the real deaths to me.
It's pretty terrible what they did to Vision, too.
Yeah, but still.
Like, come on. But yeah, that's just how we felt about the movie. I don't know if maybe y'all feel the same way, or maybe you like it more than we do.
Yeah, maybe so. like I said, I think that it is a really well made movie. I think it had a really interesting story, way better villain than I thought. Really cool arcs for a lot of these characters, but it just that ending. It just felt this is obviously a part 1 of a part 2. It's not a standalone movie.
No, it's not, and that's very disappointing because now I have to wait however long for the next one to come out to figure out what happens.
Yeah, I don't love that. But anyway, let us know what you thought. Maybe you absolutely loved it. You can look past that. Maybe you like cliffhangers. Some people like that anticipation of the next movie. But I don't like waiting. I feel like I've been waiting 10 years for this movie. You're going to tack on another year or two to make me wait to see the end of it. I didn't like that. I feel like it was kind of misleading the way they were talking about it. But yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. Remember to like and subscribe, and see you next time.
Bye.